Welcome to the Teaching Troubled Hearts podcast. Join us today as teacher Michelle Bickhaus expands on and gives new insight to her Teaching Troubled Hearts blog in our first podcast and webinar series for educators. February's focus is Attachment 101, where we will be exploring everything you need to know about the basics of attachment. Today, Michelle talks to Cindy Gilligan, middle school teacher at Chaddock Special Education School, and gains her perspective on attachment and on using the Developmental Trauma and Attachment Program, or DTaP lens, and what it's like to work with students who have experienced disruptions in their attachment relationships.
I'm here with Cindy Gilligan. She is a teacher here at Chaddock School. Cindy, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you
for
having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your role here and your experiences that you've had here at Chaddock.
So I have been here for about 6 years. I started as an intern. I was teaching at a public school at the time and was an intern here in the clinical department because I was getting my master's in school counseling. So I started in the cottages, and then after that I came to the school because that is where my heart is at the school. And I did the orientation room and was the teacher in the orientation room for a couple of years. And then I was blessed to be able to be the high school counselor after I finished my master's program. And so now this is my second year as a teacher. So I've been in many areas, many different roles over the 6 years here at Chaddock. So right now I have middle school students in my room, anywhere from 6th to 8th grade. Boys and girls. I have more boys than girls, but I have a mix of boys and girls in the middle school age.
Great. So you've really seen a lot of different aspects of the entire agency and worked with kids in a variety of roles. That's really great.
Yeah.
Good. So what does the term attachment mean to you?
So when I think of attachment, I think of a bond, whether that's a bond with parents, whether that's the bond with grandparents or even foster families that have raised the children. But also attachment and bonds can be made with teachers as well, or paraprofessionals or principals, just adults that are going to care for them in some way, whether that's academic, whether that's meeting emotional needs or even basic needs at home.
Okay, super. What symptoms do you feel are characteristic of an individual who has experienced a disruption in their attachment relationships?
One of the main ones I've seen in my classroom is just the mistrust. So the mistrust of the adults, mistrust of the peers, and even the mistrust of the environment. So they don't really know what's going to happen. They're always kind of searching for something to make sure that they're in control so they can get their needs met in the way that they want to, because they don't trust that it's going to be met. So I'd say mistrust is probably one of the biggest ones that I've seen.
Okay. And how do you see that manifesting in your classroom?
So they try to control a lot of things of their day. They may want to control when they get their snack rather than trusting that every day at the same time I'm going to give them their snack. Or just trusting when transitions happen or where they sit in the room. Some want to sit with their back facing the wall because they want to be able to see everything. So just trying to control a lot of the things that happen in their day rather than trusting that I have done it so far, that I'm going to do it again. And then mistrusting that their peers are going to be friendly with them.
Right, trusting that everything's safe, always right. When we talk about looking at symptoms and behaviors through the DTaP lens, what does that mean to you? What does attachment mean to you?
So if I see the behaviors, for example, the controlling behaviors, instead of looking at the behaviors, looking at it through that DTaP lens is where are they at developmentally? Because their attachment at some time was probably disrupted. And wherever that attachment was disrupted, that's probably where they are developmentally. So a lot of those behaviors are going to come from that disruption. So looking underneath all those behaviors and where the attachment was disrupted, so I can meet them where they are and work on that so then they can trust that I'm going to take care of them and what needs they need in order for me to show that I can be trusted.
And exactly, because that that developmental level for them, because it was disrupted, is not going to match their chronological age.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, great. So when using the DTaP lens to view symptoms and behaviors, how does that change the way you work with the individual or meet the individual needs?
So I think that's been difficult because, like you said, the chronological age can be very different than their developmental age. And so I have to really understand that child individually to figure out where they are developmentally. And then I can change things like the amount of time that they have one-on-one, or the seating arrangement that they have in my room, or the level of academic work that they can do. Even something simple like writing. Some can't write very much or write very long. And it isn't necessarily because they refuse, it's just developmentally they're maybe more of a first grade level than they are the 7th or 8th grade level. So just trying to figure out where they are developmentally, so then I can have an effect on their behaviors and their academics, instead of just ignoring where they're at developmentally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, so what would be your best piece of advice for other educators who work with students who may have experienced disruptions in their attachment relationships?
Being patient and looking beyond the behaviors. I have kids that I have strong relationships with that I've worked on over the years, and I've had to work on not taking their behaviors personally, and looking at the behavior and thinking that this is something that they necessarily want to do on purpose. And I think that was really hard as well, coming from a public school setting into a setting like this. And so I think just being patient and really trying to understand the kids individually, and that means spending time with them and genuine time. And so I think if you do all those things, it's showing them that you can be trusted, and it's showing them that you genuinely care, rather than just betting on saying it and them understanding that, because that's very difficult. But I think just being patient and spending as much time with them individually as you can, to get to know them.
Sure, that's right. Great advice. Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Teaching Troubled Hearts podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Knowledge Center at Chaddock on Facebook for future episodes and more in-depth content from the Knowledge Center. For further resources and training opportunities, you can log on to www.theknowledgecenteratchaddock.com or www.teachingtroubledhearts.com. We hope you'll join us again next time.